Good evening and welcome to the Gold Ghosts and Guns Hour here on YouTube and Periscope. My name's Tom Luongo. How are you guys tonight? I am going to do this standing up for once because it just doesn't feel right to sit down. Legs are getting a little restless. So hopefully I've got my Starship Enterprise thing laid out that I can actually see everything and respond to your comments and do what needs to be done in order to properly serve y'all this evening. All right. So, hell of a day, right? No, just kind of change the angle. So, hell of a day. This is a day that we've been waiting for a while. I got a new video up on YouTube, short one, about Alex Jones. I covered some of the issues I wanted to talk about, but there's more to this whole situation with Alex Jones being purged from, well, everything. So we should get to it. Alex Jones is important. He's a symbol. It's important that they take him out because he has breached containment. They don't have any control over. He's a symbol of the lack of control that they have now over the narrative, and they need to regain control of that narrative. And that's what Facebook is for. That's what YouTube is for. That's what the Android and iOS hardware platforms are for. They're for controlling not only the software but the hardware, and to effectively and eventually unperson everyone, because they can't do it directly because of the First Amendment, and they can't get the First Amendment repealed. So they're going to do it through this kind of public-private partnership orbit. No, it's really their private companies, so they get to do what they want with their overly broad EULAs and their overly broad interpretations of their EULAs, while they hire the worst kind of ideologues to police their content on their platforms. It's all nonsense. And they no longer, they're desperate before the midterms to get control of the information flow. And they're not going to get control of it again. It's gone. It's past them. It's so very obvious that it's past them. And I don't think it's ever going to come back, as hard as they're going to push for this. So this afternoon, I looked at this, and I've said from the beginning, I said this, I think we talked about this. I think we talked about this back earlier in the year when Parkland happened, right? When the Parkland shooting happened and YouTube started banning gun-based accounts, right? Pro-gun accounts. And at that point, those guys were immediately moving off onto other platforms, on their other content delivery networks. And yeah, they went on the smaller ones like Vimeo and whatever, and they were probably thrown off of them as well. But the one place that they weren't cut off from was YouPorn. Because YouPorn doesn't care. YouPorn will host whatever. Hell, you've seen some of the stuff they host on YouPorn. The NRA is not edgy compared to what's on YouPorn. So it's what's coming next. And one of the things one of the things that's like the best kept secret in the industry is that those guys have better CDNs and better networking than Google does. If not better, certainly as good. And they could host Alex Jones. They could host me. They could host all of us. And so you want to talk about a means by which for Alex Jones to hawk superior male virility or whatever. YouPorn seems pretty obvious to me. So don't be surprised if those guys and Alex Jones form a new, coalition around free speech. So Joanne says, I'm thinking the timing might indicate that the Alex Jones shutdown is related to Roger Stone in advance of some Mueller indictments or court of public opinion indictments. It's very possible, Joanne. No, there are no coincidences in politics, certainly. When things like this happen, they always happen for a reason. But all of this is centered around the midterms. And if you look at what we saw today, the push is on now to really ramp this thing completely over the top. This is going to be the next two to what is it? August, so September, October, November, early. So we're just around 3 months away from the midterm elections, right? And this is when House elections really start. Nobody really pays attention to House elections until 2 months before the election date anyway. It doesn't matter. All everybody's doing is just qualifying for primaries and getting on the ballot and, raising money. But the campaigns themselves don't start for about 60 days before the election. So we're in that run-up period. So between now and then, it's going to be like that sequence in V for Vendetta when John Hurt says, "I want them all to remember why they need us," and then the propaganda campaign goes completely ballistic. That's what's coming. Okay, that's what we're staring at. And we're staring at that hard. I saw today on Zero Hedge that the Brits are going to demand extradition of suspects in the Skripal case for poisoning Sergei and Yulia Skripal. Why are they issuing subpoenas to Russia? All they got to do is look at MI6. Everybody knows this, but they have to double down on these narratives. The more Mr. Browder is exposed for who he is, the more they're going to double down on these narratives. So it's why we have to continue pushing this stuff as hard as possible. Meanwhile, everything's blowing up around the world. The Chinese are telling Trump to go fuck himself over sanctions. They're moving troops into Idlib to help support the cleaning up of that place, which is a clear signal that they want that. They're there to help dictate the terms of the settlement to get the United States out of Syria. This thing's is ratcheting up to 11, and it's going to continue like this for the next 3 months minimum. And then I want you to put this date in your head, because I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been thinking about this a lot, trying to figure out what's coming next. For those of you who follow Martin Armstrong, this is going to get a little woo-woo. But for those of you who follow Martin Armstrong, the next big date on Martin's cycle analysis for the economic confidence model, for the big economic confidence model, the big one, is November of 22nd of this year. Or 2018.889. So I think that's the 22nd. Right around there. Which is, 2.5 weeks after the election? Traditionally, weird stuff happens in Europe at the end of the year. It's going to be about that time when something is going to have to give relative to Brexit, I'm thinking. Because they're negotiating now, but they don't have a lot of time left to negotiate a deal for Brexit. And the reason they don't is because they have to put a deal together, then it has to go all over the place. It has to go to everybody to be ratified. It has to go in front of all the parliaments and ECB, and it's going to go back and forth, and they've got to revise it, and the lawyers have to look it over, and the judges have to look it over. And there's really not that much time left between now and March. So the big thing that's staring out at me for late November is that moment when Brexit has to either happen or not happen. You follow me? That's the thing I think that's out there. I mean, maybe it's a war thing. Maybe a shooting war starts. Maybe a shooting war starts up again. I don't know. But that one seems obvious to me. Could be that a major Italian bank fails. Could be something else. Could be that the Ukrainians finally decide to invade the Donbass. I sincerely doubt it, because if they were going to invade, they would have done it this summer right after the World Cup or during the World Cup, because, well, if you're going to try and invade, you don't do so during the quote-unquote Russian winter. Invariably, ceasefires are negotiated in late fall, early winter, and all fighting stops then until the spring. So, yeah, Posobiec and Cernovich are probably next. Would not doubt it. As far as who they're going to purge next. Those guys are vulnerable. And they need to be seriously thinking about where they're going to go next. I've been telling you for over a year now that you have to have other ways to, what's the word I'm looking for? Be able to publish your work, to be able to keep your life, your internet life available to you. They don't want you on Twitter. You better have a Gab account. You want to be a blogger? You can't trust WordPress or GoDaddy, who's your ISP, or even if you independently hosted, you can't trust GoDaddy or Pair or anybody else. You can't trust Medium. They'll get rid of your ass as quick as shit. I'm in the same position with Patreon, right? I mean, Patreon handles my money. And you would think that they would be neutral on this stuff. But we know that they're not. So if you want to be able to have a life on the internet, I agree. They've had plenty of time to migrate, and they haven't done so to Gab or Minds or BitChute or whatever, and they haven't done it. That includes myself. You need to go to alternative platforms. And look, you have to remember, like I said before, you don't need the venture capital to start your own CDN. Right, maker support. Ugh. Exactly. They just shut you down because they can't do it because Stripe shut them down. So the answer to this is what I've been saying for over a year, which is the blockchain. The platforms like Steam and others that are going to tokenize your content and provide you with an income service, provide you with an income. And I'm telling you, YouPorn is your next best bet because those guys aren't going to get shut down. Yeah, 4chan works for Q. So, I mean, and Steam has its problems. No argument. But at the very least, your voice will be there and it can't be silenced. And so, wow, I didn't hear about that, DevPav, that maker support was taken down by leftists committing mass chargeback fraud. I wouldn't be surprised. You want to look at steemit.com, steemit.com. It is a kind of Facebook-like interface for, or Reddit-like interface for content creators. I think YouPorn, you've never been to YouPorn, probably says something about who you are, probably something a lot better than it says about me, but it's the biggest porn server on the planet. Okay? And we all know how much of internet traffic is porn. Okay? These guys use unbelievable amounts of bandwidth. Okay? So it's there. I mean, it's just content. You can host whatever. I can host my political videos on YouPorn. Yeah, why not? I probably should put them over there. I should probably start a YouPorn account for this exact reason. I don't see why not. I bet you the barriers to monetization of my channel are a lot lower too. I'm not suggesting y'all go over there if you don't want to see stuff that you don't want to see. So, but what I think is going to happen next, I give it up on appealing to women. Like, I'm kidding. I mean, and part of me is I'm not like I'm only gonna put my stuff over there. That would be dumb, right? Couple, yeah. But there's a natural synergy here between those guys who run YouPorn and all the rest of them and Alex Jones. All they have to do is spin up another shard with no porn on it. Okay? And call it YouPolitics. Okay? Or as I said this afternoon, YouKooks. And leave it that way. No porn. Serve ads. They can serve normal ads as opposed to porn ads all day. They can do whatever they want. It's just content. Who gives a shit who owns the back end? The front end is what anybody ever cares about. Well, depending on, your sexual proclivity. All right, so, but you see what I'm getting at. This is what Alex Jones should have been negotiating for the last 5 months since CNN first declared war on him. Awesome, Eric. Good to meet you. Porn is free speech. Glad you're here. I'll try and keep you entertained. These are my live streams. They're interactive. You'll be happy to ask and answer questions. I tend to try and rant on my own for about 20 to 30 minutes because that's about how long normal people watch, and then the rest of you, it's all for y'all. Okay? So understand what we're talking about here. There's a natural way to get around these people. If YouTube becomes unbelievably restrictive, there's an avenue. And all they have to do is make it easy. Right. What's RedTube? RedTube is just YouTube off color. So so TX History Lover asks a really good question. Yeah, there's LiveLeak and Vimeo, but those guys are just they're subject to the same problems as same controls as everybody else. They're not going after the porn industry. They can try. They've been trying to go after the Pirate Bay for years. They can try. The biggest data trunks in the world go to Miami to serve all the porn. You do realize that, right? I live in Florida. I live in like the bandwidth capital of the United States. Why? Because all the freaking porn comes out of Miami. It's all in Broward and Dade County. Okay, so TX History Lover asks, that's a really great idea, but do you think that Trump has something in the works as far as utility is concerned? What she means by that is whether or not these companies are going to get regulated via utilities. Now, do you think Trump is going to be able to get anything past this Congress to put true, honest-to-God regulation on Facebook and Google and the rest of them? And do you think that in any way this Congress will give him a bill that doesn't completely suck ass? How long before YouTube is just a new cable news channel, a smorgasbord of crap? Not long. But it'll also be peak Google. What about BitChute? BitChute is fine. I'm all for as many of these content delivery systems as possible. Seriously. It's just bandwidth. It's just data storage. Right. So LiveLeak has some good. I mean, LiveLeak, BitChute, and the rest of them. I'm all over all of these ideas, and the market is going to bifurcate. Okay. And we can find each other's work via platforms like Steam, because Steam will point you to where it needs to go. DTube is part of Steam. DTube is actually an app built on top of Steam. That's why there's earnings on every DTube video. Okay? And that was built by one guy in 4 months, by the way, DTube was. DTube was literally built by one guy using the Steam API and making and negotiating some data rates with some server farms. 4 months. Had it up and running. He's far and away better off than he was a year ago. Now, the problem with DTube is that nothing's forever. You only your video can only, when you post it, he takes part of the steemit fees that your video would collect, that you would collect. He takes a portion of them and uses them to pay for the storage fees, and those run out after 3 or 4 months. That is a problem. They have seized domains and pressured ISPs to refuse to host. Gab has gone through all that. If Kim.com is involved in building a new platform, I'm all over it. That guy's got plenty. He knows how to get around these people. He's worked, and I fully expect him to build something real. And the reason he'll build something real is because he is committed. I want to make sure I shut down some stuff that's possibly using up bandwidth because I'm seeing some drop frames. So hold on for just a second. I noticed also today how all this was happening, that somehow miraculously Facebook stock was up 8 points today. I wonder why.